Hey, welcome back to Ginger and Chocolate, everyone. I am your co-host Mike, and I'm here with Lindsay. Lindsay, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing pretty well. I had a great weekend. Got on my bike a bunch, so can't complain about that.
It's a good feeling. Yeah. My weekend was good. My wife and daughter got back from a vacation. They're out in Italy for a little while, and
Awesome.
yeah, I had some good time with my son. We hung out quite a bit, and I even took him to Metallica the other weekend. So that was fun. A lot of good times. Yeah.
Mini headbanger. So let's check in on our mental health this
Mm-hmm.
time, this episode. So, how is your mental health doing? Do you have any challenges? Things are going well?
All in all, pretty good. And I think that ties into training. For me, if I'm not training, you know, sometimes despair or anxiety or just all kinds of things creep in, insecurities. And I realize if I'm training, if I'm running, I'm lifting, or whatever I'm doing physical wise, it gets that energy out and it kind of exposes the illusion of a lot of these anxieties and depressive thoughts. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, mental health right now is pretty good, pretty stable. I had an adjustment of my meds a few weeks ago, and it takes a few weeks to kick in usually.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that, given my age and my hormonal stage in life, aka menopausal shit show, I have to adjust, a lot. I have to adjust the meds, my psych meds, to just keep up with what the rest of my body's doing. And so I was in a deep funk, and they made an adjustment. And one of my meds takes about a month or so to actually like fully adjust. So for me, I think that that's finally happened. I feel pretty even keel. In fact, I think I did a little bit more training than I've been doing just because I felt a little better in general. That the sort of instinct to just want to curl in bed and put the covers over my head has lifted, and so it's made training easier. Prior to that, I was forcing myself to get out there, and
Mm-hmm.
so I had a great weekend. It was all good, all fun, and feeling lighter. Yeah.
That's good. I find that I've had that experience with the adjustment of medication, and sometimes just the beginning of it or the prospect of it is hopeful if things aren't going right. And so I don't know if it's placebo at first, but at least I get like a spike and just like, okay, there's a new possibility here, and then when it actually kicks in, it's even better.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
okay, good.
It helps to have someone hear you,
Yeah.
when I'm on meds, and it helps to have someone, my doctor, say, yeah, I hear that. And we're going to make some changes. And you're right. There is sort of this like, okay, relief is on the horizon. And I feel better immediately. But then when they finally actually kick in and work, I'm like, oh, I feel completely stable, which is not my normal, it's not my default position.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that. All right. Well, I've been excited about this episode for a while now. Today we got a very special guest, my friend and now friend of the show, Maddie Valley. Maddie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm excited to catch up, and it's always wonderful to see you.
Thank you, and I was trying to think when we met up. I think it was Ironman Santa Rosa, and was it 2018 or 2019? I can't remember.
2019, yeah, but I had been following your journey while I was training for my first Ironman in 2018. So I had seen the videos. I believe that was the year you went to Kona, right? In 2018, or was it 2017?
2017, yeah, it
Yeah,
was tail end of 2017, and then I think the stories came out 18.
yeah, so I saw the 2017 Kona footage, and so I was very familiar with the name Mike Ergo by the time I arrived in Santa Rosa. So I was super excited to finally meet you in person. I was just so amazed by what you were doing and your experiences and everything, and it was such an inspiration and motivation for me while I was training for my first and second Ironman.
Thank you, Maddie. It's so nice to hear. I remember we all sat down at a breakfast spot, and I think your sister was there too, and we all
Yeah.
had with the Ironman Foundation, and we all. There's something I really appreciate about that time in my life doing the Ironman Foundation races, that they set up a time to everyone to just kind of come and meet before the race.
That's
Yeah,
great.
definitely. I enjoyed that. That's what I loved about it during 2020 when we weren't racing, is that they were still
Mm-hmm.
providing us an opportunity to get together weekly, monthly, whatever it was, via group rides, just a kind of like a happy hour kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was great to like stay in touch with this kind of adopted family that I had for the last few years. And so by the time we reached Lake Placid 2021, there was probably about 30 ambassadors there from the Ironman Foundation. And it was like we had never left each other because we had spent
Yeah.
all 2020 all together. So it was awesome.
Yeah. I specifically remember all the virtual rides we had for, it was like, I forget exactly what it was called, but we were raising money for funds for COVID-19, I think. And we're having all these like group rides together. Yeah.
2019 was a good year because this is when I met Mike as well
Mm-hmm.
at the Ironman Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's the year we all came together. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It speaks to the community that is triathlon. And one of the reasons I love triathlon
Mm-hmm.
is that we're all different from different walks of life. We come together on the course. Some of us are slower than others. And I'll speak for myself. I'm not saying that about you guys. You guys are faster than me. But it's a party in the back of the group there. And it's fun just because you meet such interesting people. I've developed a long-term friendship with Mike. And though I'm not part of the Ironman Foundation, I've met a lot of good people that are. And it's kind of a cool thing that they are able to bring in such an eclectic group of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I don't know about you, Maddie, but the one thing I've learned, not just through Ironman Foundation, but through racing, is a practical skill of how to apply sunscreen. Because you probably watched the Kona footage, and I was lobster red. I was torched.
I've always been really bad about it, but my partner is also ginger, and so she
Mm-hmm.
makes sure that I am applying sunscreen all time. She tells me all the time, I will not take care of you when you have skin cancer down the road.
So I know why Mike was part of the Ironman Foundation. How come you participated in that, Maddie?
Yeah, so I was working for the National Park Service at the time. I was a federal law enforcement officer. For like 3 years, I had just been trying to achieve the goal of completing an Ironman for myself. And while I was running the race and even all of those training videos I had leading up to the race, was I was seeing that everybody was racing for somebody else or something else. And that was really inspiring to me. So like watching Mike race for the Gold Star families and all of his fallen brothers on the back of his jersey and everything. I was so inspired by that I wanted to, now that I had completed my own race, I wanted to race for somebody else. I wanted it to mean something more than just me crossing the finish line. And so I had initially thought of doing for like the fallen law enforcement officers, like the whatever the blue line
Mm-hmm.
foundation or whatever it was called. I don't remember, but it still didn't really like speak to me as deeply. And I had been seeing a lot of Ironman Foundation footage going into the race that I was like, you know what? I think that's the direction that I want to go. It's hitting a lot more things. I was then racing for Santa Rosa, which was a wildfire event. So it definitely fit more with the whole conservation environmental aspect of my life with being with the
Mm-hmm.
National Park Service. So
Hmm.
once I was in, I was addicted to the family and friends that I had created and wanted to keep going. So I stayed with the foundation until.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Um, so one of the things about Maddie that I think is something we've never addressed on this on the podcast, I don't think, is the topic of trans athlete. And I think it's a great topic. I think it's an important topic in sport, both on the professional level and also on the amateur level. People have varying thoughts about it. And I would love to hear sort of a little bit about your journey as an athlete.
a scary journey, a scary journey
Mm.
and a difficult journey for sure. I've always struggled with mental health issues, and that's 100% the root of the issue. Never felt comfortable in my own skin. Longed to transition every night when I went to bed, and from as long as I can remember. And so something that was holding me back was the fear of being able to not be able to compete. There was such a negative stigma around trans athletes that I was afraid that I would potentially lose the opportunity to even work out. Not that I am a fast athlete or a professional athlete, but I didn't want to lose something that was providing me with so much joy, that was helping alleviate the mental health problems that I was having. Like Mike was saying, with the fact that when I'm swim, bike, run, I'm can not think about those anxieties and be
Mm-hmm.
depressed. And so the possibility to lose those things because I was transitioning was a huge fear of mine. And then in addition to that was the fear of losing friends and family. And I did not want to have my name dragged through the mud. I didn't want to be I didn't want to what I was seeing with Leah Thomas and other athletes in the past. I didn't want that experience to happen to me. And so I was just keep my head down and we'll hold on. And my mantra was maybe in the next life, because this isn't the life that it's going to happen, and I'm going to live as long as I can, but I don't know if how long that will actually be, because I am so unhappy with how things are, and I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be Matt. I don't want to be Matt. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a big struggle to even come out and to mentally get ready for this, because I was so afraid and had such insecurities about the whole thing, and anxiety about it, that and then even when I started transitioning, those anxieties were turned to just crippling fear. And the
Mm.
idea of having to, I mean, Ironman is a long race,
Yeah.
hours of racing. So even if you
Yeah.
shave before the race, you're going to have facial hair by the time you're starting the run. And the idea of running with a sports bra showing and facial hair was crippling fear.
Mm.
And again, the whole idea of that any moment my name could be dragged through the mud because I place higher than somebody else, or I have a better day than somebody else. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that answered the question.
It did. How old were you when you finally were
Mm-hmm.
able to start the transition? How long ago was that? Because I feel like there's a long way to go in terms of rights for trans people. But I also know, even in my own family, we have someone transitioning. I won't say their name because I don't know that they want to be put out in a podcast, but that happened in college for them recently, in the last couple of years. And there was a lot more acceptance in their friend group and with their partner, because there was more information and access to information out
Mm-hmm.
there, I think, than like when I was in college. There was no information about this. There was no understanding. You were either someone who was open-minded or you were not. And it was just a natural, like, are you an open-minded person? Not that there's information. So I'm kind of curious about your timing of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I grew up in the 90s with, you know, trans people were, I mean, the violence against trans people was praised on Jerry Springer. It
Mm-hmm.
was the butt of the joke in movies and TV shows and everything.
Yeah.
And so I had such fears based off of that was holding me back. And in 2021 was when I finally realized that I can't live another day as Matt. I'm 31 and life is going by. I feel like if I stay as Matt, I probably have 4 more years to live.
Mm.
If I transition, I have a whole life left. I regret waiting as long as I did to 31, but it was not safe. It was not the environment it was that it is today. Even in 2021, when I started taking hormones, a few months later, Leah Thomas beats out Riley Gaines, I think is what her
Mm-hmm.
last name is. And that went public and hit the news, and Leah was destroyed publicly because of that. And That was only 3 months in or of taking medication that I was like, did I make a mistake? What am I doing? I don't know if I'm ready for this. Is this not the safe world that I thought it was when I started? So it's definitely a different, it's a little bit more socially acceptable now than it was 30 years ago, but you're right, still a very long way to go for sure.
Yeah, it's scary. It
Can
can be
you?
scary. Go ahead.
Sorry, no, Mike, I'm fine. You wanna,
What I'd say to that is just finding common ground with Maddie is that when it's interesting the intersection of just human experience and stories, and then people being put up as like a political talking point. I'm thinking specifically of a couple friends of mine when we spoke about our feelings against the Iraq War. One of my friends was on another Iraq War vet was on like a Fox talking show, and he became this lightning rod for like, you're a bad person because this is how you feel, and this is, it's like, well, this is my experience, and I'm not sure what to tell you about it. But you're right, the fear, I'm sure, Maddie, of like becoming this focal point for national debate or international debate is got to be pretty scary.
Yeah, for sure. It's the whole idea about it in the first place is absurd and ridiculous. If everybody was the same height and size, there wouldn't be a reason for competition, even across genders. I mean, Michael Jordan was only what, 4'6'5",
Hmm.
somewhere in there, and Tim Duncan was 7'1".
Yeah.
So he had a height advantage, a physical advantage. Lucy Charles Barclay has a wingspan that's way bigger than mine, and she's a few years younger than me. There's no way I could swim 30 minutes. So, it's the idea behind that. I have 35 years of testosterone and muscle and all of this other stuff in my system that would make me a better athlete than somebody who has genetically and has genetic gifts, and maybe they had some financial background that was able to allow them to go to swim camps or run camps, or they were able to do this stuff earlier in their life, that they were able to develop these skills. And I didn't have any of that. I'm 5'6", maybe 5'7", with some hokas on.
one thing I think is a little bit parallel. I mean, not entirely, but the Black experience in sport is, and this does not apply to me at all. I'm mixed race, and I got my mom's side of athletic talent, which is not a lot, to be honest. But Black Americans, we were bred like livestock, to be honest, when we were slaves.
Hmm.
And so the strongest ones survived. The most muscly, ones that were able to do the most work are the ones that survived. And so a lot of times you see maybe a sport that's predominantly white, and then you see a Black athlete break through, and there's a big difference in, I saw someone on TikTok talking about like, I mean, he was kind of joking, but it was like, can we keep one sport for white people? Because every time a Black guy shows up, like Tiger Woods, and then they were like, well, we still have tennis. And then they're like, oh, wait, no, we don't,
Yeah.
and, but partially that's breeding. I mean, it's just like anything else that you breed for specific purpose. You're going to see an overall, you know, uh, you're going to see a, advantage towards that, whatever it is. And so I do feel like the idea that a trans athlete would have an advantage other people have, if you're going to apply that, then you could apply it to the entire Black community, because we were just like a trans athlete would be making conscious choices to change their physiology. We didn't make a conscious choice, but the truth is there was a change, and that's from the breeding. And so you could take us all out of sport as well, or at least most of us. So I think that's uh, your argument is a good one. That says you don't necessarily have an advantage. But really quickly, I want to back up, because one of the things I think that's really a problem, I feel like the athlete thing really stems from people trying to find reasons to not like a trans person in general. Like, there's a whole litany of reasons. They're going to use the bathroom. They're going to win in sports. I mean, and these are all people who are coming from a place of ignorance. You hear just completely absurd things. They're going to do this to my kid when they go to school. It's like the process is not, and I've gotten into an argument with someone about this. I was like, the process is not fast. So if you could just do a high level of what the process is like. So there's if someone is feeling uncomfortable and they don't really have information, they can understand this isn't something that is just a fly by night, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, so it depends, it varies, but my experience was that uh, I made that decision in May of 2021 that I can no longer live my life as Matt. In September, I finally went to a doctor who suggested that before I even start medication, that I start seeing a therapist. I then went to 3 different therapists before I found somebody who had actually specialized in transgender healthcare, which that was a whole nother thing, is that, not all people are, not all doctors are created equal. And then I was seeing that therapist for 3 months before I began taking medication. And so it wasn't from May 2021, I didn't begin until December 2021. And this is after already having 31 years of these underlining feelings that I had no idea how to deal with or what was the cause or anything, with no resources whatsoever. And so typically you're back into puberty again for a few years, and so your estrogen levels are going to be way higher than your testosterone levels, way higher than the average woman your age, because you are going back down to puberty level where those estrogen levels are super high. And so underneath it all, from my understanding, is that your levels are going to be more than theirs. And then, there was the whole socially transitioning of things. So I had to get over all of those mental hurdles. I was already medically transitioning for what's 2025 now, is that I was medically transitioning for almost 4 years before I went out for the first time in a dress and makeup 2-3 nights ago for a Pride event. I still am terrified to use the women's bathroom and won't, just because of being bullied or harassed or worse. And then it wasn't until last year that I actually got my license changed, my passport changed, all of those things. But in this 4 years, I could have gone for surgeries or things like that. Unfortunately, I don't want to wait the year of recovery for bottom surgery, so I might have to wait until after I ever get to Kona to go, because I can't take a year off from riding my bike.
That'd be a long time.
Yeah, a year is a long time.
So
It's definitely.
So it's a very long process. So if somebody wants to use this as, I'm going to take this to get an advantage in sports, right? Is that the governing bodies say that I can't even compete in the women's category unless I take 3 years off from competing in any sports. It doesn't even have to be triathlon. I have to take 3 years off. I have to undergo regular testing, provide doctor's notes, disclose all my medical documents, which I already do undergo regular medical testing because they want to make sure that my levels are all where they should be in order to give me medication. But I have to disclose all that to strangers in order to compete in the women's category. And for me, it's really not worth it. I don't want to take time off. I'm on a timeline to get to Kona at 12 races, so I don't want to take time off, and I'm still gonna race for me. I'm still gonna carry my flags. I'm still gonna go out there and go do it. I don't really care, women or men, it doesn't matter, or lose to women or men. That's not the point of this. It's the point of to go see how well I can perform and see if I'm still capable of doing it.
So currently you're racing in the men's category. Is that what's happening?
Correct. Which
so
makes
you're
it
at a disadvantage then, because you've changed your hormone levels pretty drastically, and so now you're at a big disadvantage, it sounds like.
I mean, I still continually train, but my body doesn't regulate temperature as well anymore. I have hot flashes. So
Welcome.
I have all of those same experiences, which are fun. And, but it's not necessarily given me an advantage in the women's category. Friends of mine that are in my age group that are women beat me by like an hour So, I don't have any advantage there either. It makes race day really awkward when I get out of my wetsuit at the full distance and I have to choose which changing tent do I go into,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
because I've got boobs and I've got a
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel comfortable in the men's changing tent. I don't feel comfortable in the women's changing tent, and volunteers are pointing you in the direction based on your swim cap, and so, or what you are what you appear on the outside to be, and
Mm.
so, that's been really awkward and a difficult hurdle to get over, both mentally and physically. Is that what I've been doing is finding a porta potty and stripping out of my wetsuit in a porta potty, which is not easy by any stretch of
Oh
the
no.
imagination.
No, not to mention
And
gross.
Yeah.
very gross, very gross. And then
Yeah.
putting my head down and just running straight through the men's change tent to my bike, and because it's just that's the
Yeah,
way it works. So
it's not safe. I mean, I will say about triathlon, it's one of the safer places for me as a Black person. I don't know if your experience is like that. It seems like everyone's very focused on their own race, and then at some point in the race, people are encouraging each other just to get through. Um, Now, that may not be true for Kona qualifiers. You guys might just be with an intense group of people who aren't paying attention at all. But those of us in the back, it's like, there's just no, I'm racing with all white people. And I don't feel that sense of being different during a race because there is sort of this. Is that, have you found that, or do you find that you're getting some pushback?
I have not received any pushback from the athletes that I'm
Mm.
racing with. I've gotten tons of love and support from the professional women, from age group women. It's been absolutely wonderful. That doesn't mean that I still don't have those fears and anxieties,
Mm-hmm.
but I have gotten indirect from volunteers that did not know. And so they've talked negatively about trans athletes to me. And so I think that's just that fear isn't so much that about an athlete, it's the spectators and the volunteers. And really the hardest part of triathlon, even just for cisgender whatever, is the training aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
and so the hardest part as a trans athlete is training, is going to the pool, because they aren't those same kind of triathletes that want to cheer you on the whole way. It's a very different experience, and I go to the pool already ready to go jump in, and as soon as I have to go to the bathroom, that's it, my workout's over. So if it's a 30-minute swim, then that's it. If I can get the whole hour in, that's fantastic. There's one gender neutral bathroom, and it's next to the kiddie pool. And so if kids are using it during the summer, then I'm out of luck. And I won't go into the men or women's lockers. I'll just go home and go to the bathroom there. And then riding, I live in not rural. I live in southern Georgia, in the rural farmlands where I try to do my long rides, and there's flags and all kinds of stuff that make me feel very uncomfortable, to wanting to get a
Mm.
flat tire out there, or having to run into a bush to go to the bathroom. So it's a whole new level of fear, and running. I've actually had to start running with a knife, because
Mm.
running in a sports bra, and you get catcalled initially, and then you get a little bit closer, and they start giving the transphobic slurs or comments,
Mm.
and start to fear a little bit for yourself, because in all that training time you're out there typically by yourself and not with
Yeah.
2,500 of your craziest friends, so there is a lot less safety for sure. So yeah.
I feel for you in that. And I've not been to Southern Georgia, but I personally feel scared at the idea of, as a Black person, training, especially solo in the South, because there have been issues with that as well. And so you kind of have double the challenge there with being in a seemingly more religious and red state. A little bit of bias there that may not be as prevalent in other places. So hearing your experience, with all of the logistics of trying to be an athlete, not being able to change, the idea that your swim is done early, you're in a porta potty at Ironman is incredibly sad. I feel sad hearing that, because this is supposed to be a stress reliever for this is supposed to be a source of joy, and it sounds like you've managed to find joy in it regardless of the challenges, and I'm very impressed by that. And that shows some mental toughness that I'm not sure all of us have. What do you
Incredible.
Yeah, isn't it
Yeah.
I don't have that. I'm such a baby. I'd be like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Do you, so, a lot of athletes express having to sort of talk themselves through training in a race and stuff, just to be like, I'm out here. I want to do this. This is, all of the positive, because the negative comes in very easily, it seems like. Do you have that same experience? And how do you get yourself, what does your positive talk look like?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I always start with yeah. So Ironman Texas last year was really tough. It was really, really tough. Racing in Texas, I was feeling so uncomfortable. I had created a race kit that was the trans flag, and I was very excited to race in it. But once I arrived in the woodlands, that excitement, I had an all-time worst swim, even though on paper it wasn't, but mentally and physically it was the worst swim. And then getting out and changing into my trans flag tri kit in Texas filled me with so much. I was just like, I don't know if I even want to continue this bike course. I don't want to do this race anymore. Of course, I really struggled with the whole idea of, now I've got this huge target on my back. I'm not enjoying this at all. The only thing that kept me going was, if I don't complete this race, I'll have to come back and do it again. And I don't want to come back to Texas. And so on the run, I typically run. I started this in 2022 when I stopped racing for the Ironman Foundation. I want to race for somebody and make it a worthwhile experience. Is that I started doing the last half marathon there with two trans flags. One I carry for myself, and the other is for the person that's afraid to come out. And so I collected them at my special needs bag on the run, and I ran to the first trash can and actually just threw them away because I was so afraid of what people would see on the course, how people would react, because now there's no music blasting in my ears to block out any kind of negative things that people say. It's just dead silence out there with just your heavy breathing. And I really struggled when I crossed that finish line. I said, I don't want to do triathlon anymore. I don't want to coach. I don't want to race ever again. I don't want to carry those flags. I don't want to do this. So it mentally broke me for sure. But a lot of those things that just keep me going is looking forward to carrying those flags. I look forward to those conversations I can have on the run, because I'm not a fast runner anymore, and I am that back of the pack person, and so it's an opportunity to talk to people. And so I looked forward to that, and Texas did not give that to me, and so I was done. And at Lake Placid, though, 4 months later, complete turnaround. The same kits, but everybody I met through the whole week was excited for me. They were excited about my story. They were providing me nothing but love and support. And then out on the bike course, there were flags all over the place.
Nice.
I had a couple of people come up to me and thank me on the run for carrying the flags and talk to me about it. So it was a completely different experience. And having that turnaround from that was able to kind of keep me going, because the only reason why I didn't retire after Texas was because I already dropped the 800.
Like, I got to go now.
So yeah, it's having people that support and are showing support and being excited about what I'm doing is definitely a huge motivator for the race. And during training, I feel like at this point it's if I don't put in the work, I know I'm not going to be successful. So put in the work so you can have the best day possible when it comes to race day. So that's the only drive that I have moving forward.
Well, I love the comeback story of going back to Placid and having a totally different experience, because you're right. You can get kicked down by a bad experience and want to quit. And what a shame that would be if that was your last race and like that was the end of a sport and lifestyle you love because of the reception or the feeling you had there. And there's one thing, you know, we have a lot of things in common, Maddie, but carrying the flag, representing a cause or something else, something bigger than just ourselves is a huge responsibility. I mean, people like us could race for our causes and never tell anyone about it, never just have that internally. But once you make that an external representation with a visual like a flag, then you're right. The conversations come like, why are you carrying this flag? What is it about? You know, the curiosity or sometimes the hostility, right? Like I remember carrying a flag at Ohio, you know, the U.S. flag, and it was the Ironman 70.3 Ohio. And some guy was really negative about that. I don't know what he thought I was about, but he started yelling at me for carrying the U.S. flag. Yeah, because it's something about, you know, like the U.S. atrocities overseas and this and that. I'm like, I'm carrying this for my friend, my best friend who's from here,
Yeah.
who died in service, and
Yeah.
changed his tune. But still, like people see something and it represents something else to them necessarily. So what I'm saying in a long-winded roundabout way, Maddie, is just the much respect for carrying the flag, for carrying your cause, for externalizing your journey and inviting the conversation.
Thanks. I've had a lot of really great role models.
I am guilty of making some assumptions about the flag. When I saw Mike on the Santa Rosa course, I didn't know Mike at all. I wasn't mad for like political reasons, but I was just like, okay, bro, like it's not enough. You know what I mean? To run, like now you've got the flag, like, you know what I mean? More like showboating, like,
Yeah,
oh,
who's
I
this
look.
dildo carrying this around?
Exactly. I can carry a flag, you know, but so learning about the actual reason behind it is important, I think, for people to understand. And I'm really glad that you're doing this because I highly doubt that there are no other athletes that have the same kind of feelings that you've described in terms of fear to be who they really are. And
Yeah.
that must be very, very encouraging for them to see you on the course with your flags.
Mm-hmm.
It must be like, okay, maybe, you know, I can be the person that I am, which would be, it's got to be an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
So, no, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I was just going to say is that I felt like there was no role models growing up, and nobody that looked like me or anything like that that was a positive role model. And so I definitely want to show people that it's possible, and you can stay here. You don't have to just end it because you can't. There is a life on the other side of this. So, which I'm sure you can relate to, is that the I saw the Triathlete magazine had posted on Instagram. They were like, why inclusion matters, and it's like, if you don't see people that look like you and have those same kind of experiences, why would you even do it? There's no reason to do something if you don't see people that look like you and know what you're going through.
Well, hopefully you'll have the experience that I have, which is when you see the like one other, when I see one or two other black triathlete, the two of us that are on the course, it's just like, hey, we're out here doing some white shit. It's fun. White people know how to have fun. So I'm hoping at some point you see, another trans athlete out there like, hey, look, we're doing some
Dap them
straight
up.
bullshit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, so what other questions do you have or thoughts?
I think this is I'd like to know more about your story, Maddie, and go back and forward. And so I think this warrants, talking again, if you're up for it on the show in the very near future. But what I will say now before we close up is that, I've really appreciated following your posts on Instagram, especially, and learning about, your journey and what you've gone through. Because, I mean, I hope we shattered the myth or illusion that this is a journey out of convenience, right? Because it seems anything but, right? The amount of risks and steps you've taken to be who you really are is tremendous amount of effort and courage that it's involved. So I appreciate you coming, to the show and talking about these things and being that role model for people who might be feeling the same, but might not have the ability or circumstances or whatever to come out and be themselves. So I want to thank you for all of that.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed chatting with both of you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just loved it. I think it's such an important conversation. And also, just in general, you're very charismatic. So that's fun. And I think, I know people that listen to this show that are not angry at the trans community by any stretch of the imagination, but are definitely like, I feel uncomfortable. I don't know what this is, kind of that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're good people. And but there's just a lack of understanding. And it's hard, I think in some ways to put yourself in the shoes of someone like yourself, because how could someone who doesn't feel that they're the wrong gender from birth understand what that feels like? I mean, it would be such a hard feeling for me to try to generate from it. It would be impossible for me because I'm fine with what I am. But I think the best that can happen is the explanations and why there's shouldn't be fear on the part of people who are not trans. And so I'm excited for our listeners to hear
Yeah.
this and hear your message, because I think it's going to remove some of the just confusion on the part of people who
Mm-hmm.
are, genuinely good people. They just don't know what's what, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Fear of the unknown.
Yes. And that thing of like, you're not like me. There's a lot of tribalism in our society right now. I think it's like, we're
Mm-hmm.
here, we're at this side, you're at that side. We can't meet in the middle. We can't get along. We can't. And I think anybody who's trying to do what you're doing and put themselves out there to break some of that tribalism is just super brave and inspirational. So
Agreed.
Thank you. Thanks.
thanks for
Agreed.
coming on.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah.
having me. It was so great to see both of you and catch up, and thank you. I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed this.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
when's your next race?
I am done racing triathlons for the year. I'm terrified of what's in the water in the south here, so I won't be open water swimming. Alligators, snakes, amoebas, all those fun things.
Yeah.
So I just have a half marathon in November, and then I'm undecided about a triathlon for next year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So are you new to the South? Did you move to the South?
I grew up in Florida, but I've been living out west for the last decade, California and Arizona, Utah, Washington, and Alaska. And so
Wow.
where, I had no problem getting in the water, but now I'm
Right.
afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's legitimate. That's a legitimate. Alligators are a no for me.
Yeah,
Sharks are also a no though, so
sharks are no. Yeah.
it's a lot of no's for me. All right, well, I think it would be great and worthwhile having you on again to just talk through this a little bit more, especially if we have like listener feedback to kind of answer some of the questions and things that people have, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Well, I think we did it. What do you think? Okay.
Yeah. Excited for talking this out further and having you back, Maddie. And I just wanted to thank you again for having the courage to talk about your own journey and put your heart out there and put your life out there for other people to hear about. So thank you.
Thank you. Like I said, I've had some good role models.
That's awesome. That's good. That's good to know. So listeners, if you don't mind, please go to the podcast app that you're using and subscribe to our episode. And then if you can hit the auto download button, that would be very, very good for us. We can't tell who's listening unless they download the episode. That's basically what it is. And it helps us promote the podcast. And as we've demonstrated on this episode, it's this podcast can be helpful to someone who you may not know that it's helpful to. So like, subscribe, download, and if you want to check it out on YouTube, we now have all of our episodes up on YouTube. Okay, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.